In this video, we're going to look at solving quadratics using the square root property. So basically, we're just going to be square rooting to solve for x. We'll start out with a pretty basic one and then kind of work our way into a few more challenging problems. So we're just going to work on these four. If you want to follow along and take notes, why don't you pause the video now and write these four problems down. And, you know, when you're ready, unpause. All right, let's start with the first one, x squared equals 4. So this is about as straightforward as you can get. All you do whenever you have something squared, if you want to solve for that variable, you just square root both sides. Or I guess technically it's an unknown, not a variable in this case. Whatever. So we get x equals square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. Now, with these, it could be 2 or it could be negative 2, because negative 2 times negative 2 is also 4, because negative times negative cancels out. So we're going to end up with two answers every time with these, because when you do the square root on both sides, when you're getting rid of the square on x, you're going to have to consider both the positive and the negative, because negative times negative cancels out. All right, so every single problem that we do is this is going to kind of be the last step, is this one. So let's slide over to the second problem here. We've got x plus 7 squared. I kind of lied, because the last step isn't square rooting. The first step here is square rooting. And so what we end up with is x plus 7 equals 4 or negative 4. So we just write plus or minus 4. Because the square root of 16 is 4. So then what we're going to do is we're essentially going to break this into two different problems. We're going to do x plus 7 equals 4 and x plus 7 equals negative 4. And then solve each of those equations. So subtract 7 from both sides, we get x equals negative 3. That's going to be one of the answers. And then subtract 7 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 11. So our two answers are negative 3 and negative 11 that make this true. If you want to plug them in, you can. That's a great way to check. And so to do that, we would do negative 3 plus 7 squared. And that ends up being negative 3 plus 7 is 4. So that's 4 squared, and that indeed is 16. If you try that with negative 11, you should get the same answer. So you get negative 11 plus 7 squared. Negative 11 plus 7 is negative 4. And negative 4 squared is indeed 16. So it does check out. That's one way you can check your answers, is by plugging them back in. All right, let's slide over here to the third problem. It's getting a little bit more complicated. We really have to know how to undo our order of operations here. So we've got 3 and then parentheses x minus 7 squared plus 13 equals 121. Once again, I'd encourage you to pause and try this on your own and make sure that you can do this without me doing it for you. But we'll get going on it right now. So if you want to just follow along, you can do that too. So I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides first. And I get 3 parentheses x minus 7 squared equals... that's going to be 108. And then I'm going to divide by 3. It's tempting to want to square root first, but we want to undo the multiplying, and then we can undo the squaring. So we get x minus 7 squared equals, let's see, 108 divided by 3 would be 318, so 36. All right, I'm going to square root both sides now to get rid of that squaring, and I get x plus 7 equals square root of 36 is 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. So it's 6 or negative 6. All right, so then I have x plus 7 equals 6. X plus 7 equals negative 6. Let's subtract 7 from both sides. We get x equals negative 1. And subtract 7 from both sides, we get x equals negative 13. All right, and you can plug them back in to check, but it does indeed work this time. And then let's look at the last one. So this one is kind of a step up again. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to distribute this 4 and that 3 in. Now I do want to warn you, this is okay to do. If you have 3 and then in parentheses a couple things added or subtracted together, you can distribute that. But if we look back at this last one, you might be thinking, well, why couldn't I have distributed 3 in here or distribute the square in there? And the short answer is it doesn't work like that. You can't do that. If you wanted to do the squaring part, you would have to actually multiply it out, or FOIL it, sometimes we call it. And it just makes things a lot more messy. So the steps that we did on number 3 are the optimal way of solving that. Now, for this one, we do want to distribute those in and combine like terms. So we get 4x squared minus 48 plus negative 3x squared plus 3 equals negative 20. So let's combine like terms. We've got a 4x squared and negative 3x squared. That's going to be 1x squared. That's kind of nice. And then we have a minus 48 and a plus 3, or negative 48 plus 3. So that's going to be negative 45. And that equals negative 20. So now I'm going to add 45 to both sides. And I get x squared equals 25. And then I will square root both sides. And I get x equals positive or negative 5. And so those are my 2 answers. You can write it like that, or you can write them separately. X equals 5, x equals negative 5. All right, so that's it for solving using square root.